evening, everyone. It's our honor to present our first project. I'm Si Shen. This is my teammates Jin Yuanjie and Kai Hua Chen. Today we are going to talk something about the Google and the Apple stocks price and their volume analysis. And in the second part, we are talking about Black-Scholes pricing model and their bricks. And I would like to first talk about the Google and Apple stock analysis, and Kai Hua will talk something about volume, and Jin Yuan will talk something about the option pricing and the bricks. Before I starting, I would like to give you a big picture about the stock price and stock return. Stock price and volume is a very important characteristics when we investigating or analyze the price, analyze a certain stock. And in a classic finance work, we have a big picture about the stock, especially stock return. Since the stock in the classic assumption, the stock return follows the normal distribution with the Brown motion, and so the stock price should follow the log normal return. So we can check if it is the truth or not. Then we basically do what Professor Han asked us to do to calculate the four moments, the mean variance, kurtosis, and the skewness. Here's our table. Basically, I'm not sure if it's helpful to calculate the stock price mean standard deviation, skewness, and kurtosis, since we never analyze this in our finance class to do this. But I think maybe something you can find a trend, things like from year 2010 to 2011 and 2013. Basically, it's an increasing trend for all two stocks, but maybe sometimes they are follows in a variation, since the standard deviation tells you and the kurtosis and the skewness always tell you like the fat tail, or if it's negative or positive. It's not a symmetric one, and the price return is much makes sense to calculate the mean standard deviation, skewness, and kurtosis. Since I mentioned previously, it's followed the normal distribution, so we can check if it is the truth, and we can see that the mean is around 0. So basically, the standard deviation, it's why it's we all know in practical that the stock price not follow the log normal, and that's why the returns are not normal. It's because they have the fat tail as Jiachen said, the kurtosis is bigger than 3, and we also do the normal fitted in the MATLAB to check vividly. We can show the graphs to you. You can see that they all have the fat tail, no matter in which period and no matter in what stock. So that absolutely choose we cannot forecast you need a normal, but it's really makes sense in if you model in the theoretical ways to use the normal, since normal distribution always has some nice characteristics. So it's very helpful to explain something here later. We basically calculate the stock to plot the stock price here, and we found it's this is a certain example in Google. Since Google is we regard it as a value stock, so it has a relative high price, and since it's really in the high price and it's already it's not growth stock anymore, so it may make some fluctuations. The price may make some fluctuation, and we can see that especially in 2011, they make it's fluctuated very big, volatile dramatically. But in it's this year, especially in the past 6 months, it's increased. It follows in an increasing trend, but the picture in Apple is not that good recently. Since it's like a ridiculous increase in 2010, since it's like almost double from 200 to 400. Like it's a really ridiculous increase. But recently, especially stuff from the 2012 September, it's always almost all the way down from the historical high, like around 700 to down to like I think it's like almost it's already below the $450 per share. So maybe it may sound like we all know that the market and the investors are highly doubted about their product's sustainability. So we will see that at this moment the short side dominates the market to like they all sell the stock to let the stock price downside, but we will see it has like if the company launched a new product, maybe they can like relieve this and to have a new life in there, and maybe there is another booming period just around the corner, and things I think every group have done the sorting. So if you are sorting the array, it's very easy to truncate the percentile into any percentage you want. And I think to explain the percentile, it's like you can find the extreme value. Like basically in this case, we have the 25%, the most highest stock price. We can basically our group did the things is to investigate which period the majority of the highest price located in. And after our investigation, we found that the majority of the highest stock price in each time period are located at the end of the year, except the Apple, since recently they met the bad things like. So our conclusion is like almost every stock centralized at the end of each year, but as I mentioned before, the stock price already had the diffusion term, it's called the volatility. So maybe fluctuated around the year, so some extreme values may located at the beginning of the year or at the middle of the year, but the trend is like at the end of the year. So let's handle and welcome Kaiwa to tell us about the volume. Let's welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. So now we have discussed about the stock prices. We also want to study what the stock volume changes and the trend over the past 3 years for both Google and Apple. Now let's take a look at the stock volume for Google first. It sees that it's a value stock. Value stock means it's relatively stable compared to growth stock. So what we expect is to not expect to see a lot of increasing or decreasing jumps along those kind of volumes. So it's kind of fluctuate a little bit, but in general it's kind of stable. Now let's come on to the Apple stock volume. It's also kind of stable, and so from these two graphs we cannot tell something more features about those two stocks. So we actually did similar things to the stock prices. Next, please. So we also calculate the first 4 moments, which is mean, standard deviations, unis, and kurtosis. However, based on our study, we did not actually study a lot of the moments for the stock volume. So the most important thing is to look at the mean and median of both Google and Apple stocks. What I want you guys to notice here is that Apple stock trading volumes are basically 10 times than the Google stocks at the same time period. So obviously Apple is definitely more popular for those guys who are investing. So next. We also do the same thing for the stock volume, which is we're trying to find what kind of dates the trading volumes are at the highest 25% for both Google and Apple stocks. What we found interesting is that why we started stock volume. So first of all, we want to know the trading activities for both stocks. And also, if we have the data for share outstanding, we could calculate the turnover rate to try to see the liquidity to help us to better understand the trading activities after these two stocks. However, we do not have those kind of information, but it's just an idea we could think about in the future. So some features we find is that for Apple, it has a relatively high trading volume during the February and March for all 3 years, and the same thing happened to Google for each April. So one thing we think about that would affect us is because the Apple usually launch their new products. So we actually did some study and found out every time the Apple launch a new product, the trading volume increases dramatically. For example, in 2011,